Hi everyone, it's Christina and you are watching Polysroom. 1 year ago I joined forces with an online charity called Professional Education Testing and Certification Organization International, or PEOI, whom I found through the United Nations Online Volunteering Program. PEOI is an e-learning charity where volunteers create courses, academic courses, and learners from all over the globe access them for free. And once they complete the course, they can arrange with our executive director an examination with an American university, and they can take an academic credit after successful examination. We are a community of over 10,000 volunteers from all over the world right now, creating courses, translating them, or assisting with the admin of those courses. When I joined PEOI, I offered to create from scratch a module, and the title of it is Contemporary Diplomacy. It's a 16-week course that will cover, first of all, some historical facts about diplomacy, and then it continues with certain aspects of modern diplomacy. The actors of diplomacy, how diplomacy is conducted, how the negotiations are conducted, a lot of stuff, basically. When I joined PEOI, I quickly found out that it's not that easy to follow the text of the courses because of its 1990s HTML format, which makes sense for a charity because, you know, for most charities money is tight, so you understand that. And I decided to create accompanying videos or companion videos. I don't know how to say it best. With these videos, I hope to help people who find difficult to follow the text to digest the information more easily. Now, because the text files are too large and it's not possible to, you know, load the website of PEOI just with my own stuff, basically, and because it will take some time before the module goes live, because I will have to write the whole module, and then people who are more skilled than me will have to edit it and create the quizzes. So it will take years, maybe. I decided to take the videos to YouTube. Of course, we agreed that with the executive director of PEOI. And so people can discover the material sooner, and you know, nobody has to worry about heavy files. So after a year of designing this course and working on its first parts, I am very delighted to announce the completion of its introductory part. For now, that is. So, time for your first class, people. So, what is diplomacy? What is diplomacy? In this session, we will cover the definition of diplomacy, the distinction of diplomacy from foreign policy and its other instruments, the purposes of diplomacy, and finally, the role of diplomacy in warfare. Defining diplomacy. Let's begin with a definition of diplomacy. Like with most concepts of political science, there are a lot of definitions to diplomacy. Here we are using the definition by Freeman and Marx, which appears on the online version of Encyclopaedia Britannica. Quote, "Diplomacy is the established method of influencing the decisions and behavior of foreign governments and peoples through dialogue, negotiation, and other measures short of war or violence." End of quote. For many, diplomacy is synonymous to foreign policy. Nevertheless, diplomacy is only one of the many instruments of foreign policy. Apart from diplomacy, foreign policy includes a wide spectrum of peaceful and non-peaceful instruments, such as war, subversion, collection and sharing of intelligence, as well as foreign propaganda. Yet diplomacy remains a leading tool of foreign policy. The purposes of diplomacy. Diplomacy is essentially a peaceful political human practice which evolves around the state and its relations with other actors in the international system. And as such, its ultimate aim is a maximization of the leverage and power of the actor it serves in comparison to other actors without resorting to violent acts. That said, diplomacy may sometimes include coercive acts, such as a threat or enforcement of sanctions, or demonstration of military power as a warning of unilateral resolution to disputes. But even in such cases, diplomacy is still considered to remain a peaceful method of conducting foreign policy. Diplomacy and war. When diplomacy reaches a deadlock and vital interests are at stake, war may follow. Nonetheless, the breakout of war doesn't mean the end of diplomacy. At wartime, diplomacy can be used in various ways, either as an instrument of achieving strategic and political advantage or as a means of putting an end to the fighting. Marx and Freeman refer to the following wartime uses of diplomacy: conveying transitions from protest to menace, dialogue to negotiation, ultimatum to reprisal, and war to peace and reconciliation with other states; establishing and nurturing defensive or offensive alliances; disrupting enemy alliances and assuring that potentially hostile powers remain dormant; making arrangements for the termination of a conflict, whereas forming, strengthening, and sustaining the peace that follows; and finally, over the long term, diplomacy strives to build an international order conducive to the non-violent resolution of disputes and expanded cooperation between states. To sum up, diplomacy is a non-violent instrument of foreign policy, and as such, it should not be considered synonymous to foreign policy, because foreign policy includes a big number of other means apart from diplomacy. The aim of diplomacy is to increase the power and leverage of an actor in a peaceful way. Although failed diplomatic efforts may lead to war, diplomacy and warfare can coexist. In that sense, diplomacy can be used at wartime as a means of de-escalation or as a means of acquiring strategic advantage. And that's the end of the first class on contemporary diplomacy. I hope that you learned something new today. The next class is going to be on the diplomacy of the ancient Near East, and it will be here on YouTube once I complete its written part. To know when the new video will be out, make sure that you subscribe to this channel. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I'd love to see you again in one of the next videos. See ya!